Now, let's go to Nick Cater, who, of course, heads up the Menzies Research Centre and is a columnist for The Australian. Thanks for joining us, Nick. You wrote this week about wokeism and its effect on society and politics. It was a bit of a reflection, to some degree, on the debate we highlighted last week, where so many politicians and bureaucrats found it so difficult to even say what a woman is.
Yeah. It's a question of our era, isn't it? Well, what is a woman? And Brendan Murphy, the Secretary of the Health Department, struggled. He said he'd take that on notice. And you might remember Katanya Brown-Jackson, the nominee for the Supreme Court in the United States, said that she couldn't answer it because she wasn't a biologist. The Prime Minister was asked the question on Friday on 3AW and answered it admirably in 6 words, to the effect that a woman is a member of the female sex. It's quite straightforward, isn't it, really? But why this has become so tricky for people who, don't want to upset woke people. Why it's become so tricky is because the definition of a woman is no longer biological, as far as the activists, the transgender activists, are concerned. It's a matter of identity, and if you identify as a woman, that's okay. And as you've noticed earlier in your programme, you get into all sorts of problems when it comes to sport in particular.
Yeah, well, this is the issue, isn't it? People are scared that they will be attacked by these trans activists, that to actually talk about the biological differences between the sexes is to denigrate trans people. Surely that's not the case. Surely most of us can deal in reality and still be respectful and accommodating of trans people where and when we need to be.
Well, of course. But, we're also being respectful of women who want to be able to participate in sport without somebody coming in with an unfair advantage through biology, through testosterone, through birth. And we're protecting women's safety. I mean, a lot of women wouldn't feel particularly safe in a changing room or a toilet if there was a biological man in there. So, look, there are competing issues here, but I think it's quite clear that we should stick, for the most part, to the biological definition. If somebody identifies as a woman, we pay them no disrespect. We respect them, but it will obviously mean that they won't be able to do everything a biological woman can for just common sense reasons. The point is, Chris, look, you could go out to the Royal Hotel in Yass, and this would be perfectly understood in the front bar.
But this is why I think
Canberra, of course, it's very confusing.
Well, but this is why I think our politicians on the Conservative side, especially, it really should be the Labor Party as well, but they ought to have these debates. They oughtn't run from them. They seem to be cowed by the activists because, sure, this doesn't fix the balance of payments or repair the budget. But if you cave into this sort of cancel culture, this sort of social intimidation, then there's no knowing where it will end. We've seen what's happened with the history wars and everything else. Just stand up for common sense. Don't be afraid of the culture wars, the history wars, the gender wars.
Yeah, that's right, because, the activists behind this campaign, they've got a lot of other things on their agenda too, including dismantling the nuclear family, taking away parental rights in school and so forth. You just have to hold a line here. And it's interesting, that politicians around the world who now are holding the line on this, Boris Johnson in Britain has been very clear on this, as opposed to Keir Starmer, who hasn't been able to answer the question, what is a woman? And, in the United States, Governor Ron DeSantis notably taking on the Disney Corporation or Disney company over this. They are very popular. You cannot but be popular if you just take this common sense position, which is held by, at a rough guess, I would say 80% of the Australian population.
Absolutely.
And I think for Scott Morrison, the Liberals, it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us, Nick. Appreciate it. Nick Cater there from the Menzies Research Centre. Absolutely. Scott Morrison and the Liberals have the opportunity to stand up in favour of common sense and to protect and respect girls by taking up this argument in Warringah with Zali Steggall through Catherine Deves, because that is important to many people, I would suggest most people.